think I'm going to Vail. These things are just real smart. Change.
It has a 127 page document. You just get back from the school tour. It was fun when you were out there.
You know, I don't know.
Isn't-
Arrow drop.
You got sun.
But
Doesn't it?
this is
Where Walmart is right here. Isn't that we're right in front of the new storage place that used to? Where did you go this?
that mobile.
That mobile?
Gas stations.
Yeah, it's a mobile gas station right there now, right?
So yeah, this goes down in the Cheers.
Right, right.
Yeah, you're right.
So are they taking down the mobile station or is it next between the mobile station and the building? I couldn't tell from the pictures. Have been there? Wow.
No, I even looked online. I go, it's not like a big resort.
Yeah, I couldn't either. See, it's like impossible. My email has got so much junk.
Which one? The one you corrected us on or the other?
No, the one with the
Sports bars.
doesn't come from Heather, it comes from town. It's the same as.
This is it. Are there, paper copies? You don't need to steal them back. I'll just, I've got an extra agenda though that.
Yeah, here, take mine.
Go look at the stuff online. I don't even bother bringing my tablet in.
No,
Matt, do you have the email open? For the link, or did you download the link?
Ready? Okay. You want to look at papers? Okay. Is that what you're looking for?
Oh, it was right there. That'd be fabulous. Thank you. Just in case, thanks.
you gonna count us
So
down?
one last. All right.
Anybody else?
Guess not.
Looking good, Craig?
Yeah, am I running that? I'm not on that, am I speaking other?
No, you were on laptop.
Okay, I can't turn that on. When I broadcast here, will that go up there?
As soon as somebody starts speaking, it's supposed to be switching over and I don't know why it's not. I would say, Jim, go ahead and start it. I'm gonna play.
Okay, very good. Okay, good evening and welcome to this workshop meeting of the Town of Henrietta Planning Board on February 21st. It's 21st, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking at 9th on here, February 21st, 2023. Members present. Matt Borkowski, Tricia Brill, Craig Eckert, Walter Liss, Robert Barley, Marcy Reynolds, Planning Board Attorney Daniel Mastrella, and from town staff, Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning. First item on our agenda this evening, excuse me, will be the minutes from the January, excuse me, minutes from the January 17th meeting. We all had a chance to look at those. Anybody have any comments or questions regarding the minutes? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Mr. Barley, thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The minutes are approved. Thank you very much. First application this evening, application number 23-001, Take 5 oil change. This is for final site plan approval of a new 1,600 square foot vehicle service facility located at what will be known as 1300 Highland Drive in a planned commercial development district. And I'll have you introduce yourself when you're all set, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Evening, everybody.
Evening.
My name's Emma Oakes. I'm a project manager and landscape architect with Costitch Engineering, land surveying and landscape architecture. Tonight I'm representing Quattro Development LLC on this Take 5 oil change site development project. We should have some folks from Quattro joining us virtually, Mike and Brett, I believe. And our architect Jason is hopefully also joining us virtually. A little bit about this project. We're proposing, as you said, a 1,600 square foot building with 3 automotive car bays on an out parcel adjacent to existing gas station and self-storage use off of Marketplace Drive. I've got a rendering over here to kind of give you some context. Marketplace Drive is on the south side here, and Highland Drive is on the west side of the rendering. The proposed building is kind of dead center. You can see that. There are more than 700 Take 5 oil changes across the country. The average location sees about 50 cars, services about 50 cars per day. Our proposed site layout would allow for 15 cars to queue on the east side of the building. So that'd be 3 lanes of 5 cars. The average time that somebody spends getting their oil changed at this site would be about 10 minutes, I believe. The current site consists of an existing underutilized parking lot that has about 25% green space. Our proposed site layout would increase that green space to about 30%, which is a benefit. So a little bit about the town process so far that we've been through. A few weeks ago, we were granted a special use permit by the town board.
Emma, can I ask that you bend the microphone down?
Oh,
just a-
I'm
No,
so
we can
sorry.
hear you, but
Is that
it's-
better?
Yeah.
Okay,
as long as-
so sorry.
You have to be really close to that one.
Do you? Okay. I'm like, I feel like I'm yelling. Okay. Hopefully that's a little bit better.
Yes.
And lastly, we received all the town and county comments that were passed along on Friday to us. And we don't see any real issues in addressing any of those. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have at this time.
Okay, thank you. And I want to ask, is there anybody else from your firm that might be online that we should get down in our
I showed 2 names.
show too?
Oh,
Okay,
is there two? Yeah, there's nobody from our firm, I don't believe, but we have
Brett Dahlman
that's from Quattro. Yep.
and Jason Hanham.
That's our architect.
okay. You want their names, or only if they speak?
You tell me.
Okay.
Only as they speak, or should I write it down?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Emma, thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and open it up to the board and I will start, Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
I see a great reuse site here. Let me get back to my, this real quick. I just wanted to confirm the cross access easements. I didn't see, I saw the one on the set of plans to the north. To the south, or actually would be up the east side of this lot, or excuse me, let me reorient. The north side of this lot that continues east over to Marketplace Drive. I see the one that exists going westbound in the existing plaza. And that's also going to be the proposed construction entrance.
I believe so. Yes. Yep.
Has that been discussed with the property next door?
Yes.
Okay. And then the cross access easement going off of the north side, does that come into contact with this parcel?
So sorry. So, are you referring to,
Yes.
yes, the north-south cross access easement? Yep. That does exist. And I do have documentation of that and can provide that to you all if you would like
Yeah,
it.
but what's shown here in the plans doesn't really come in contact with the parcel. Is that right, Chris?
I think I know they do have one, more than one, but obviously, well, I guess what I would say is that before we'll sign off on the plans, just make sure that we have, access easements for both properties.
Yes. Okay. I can provide that documentation.
So, I mean, because it's your, interest to send people out in either direction, right? Whether they want to go to Marketplace Drive or pick the safer route, maybe west to go through the light.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But I don't, want to get that cut off from you on the north side from the existing parcel that's there without having that access.
I
don't know if
understand.
They have the ability to cut off that property line.
Yeah, I understand. The intention, and maybe Greg can offer a little bit more insight, but the intention when they did create this parcel here was to have access across in front of that old Circuit City building, the new self-storage building. So they did put the easement in place for that purpose. I wonder, let me pull up the map here and see if that makes it a little bit clearer, because I believe the easement does touch this parcel on the south side. Or the east side.
I can, I know this helps too. I can share my screen.
Yeah, maybe that will help.
It'll come up, I think there. And is that on the up? Are you looking at the drawing on the outside or are we just looking at it on this one?
I can see it on the side as well.
So I'm showing what looks to be that cross access easement there. It says approximate location, 30-foot wide access easement, but it looks as though it stopped.
Mhm.
So that's what I guess I was referring to. It's just a conflict I think that should be addressed, because you want to send the vehicles if they're through from the north or from the west property line. This would, in what I understand, would be in the ingress off the north side of the building, right? They enter the building on the north side.
On the east side. This is north.
Yeah, okay, you're right. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm getting my,
I guess I always felt that that back was oriented north as this curves around. So yeah, thank you. So they enter the ingress on the east side and then egress off the west, right?
exactly, and then
So
would
the
continue.
ingress Would be off this east side where the approximate location of that easement states. You wouldn't
Right.
have anybody going out to the north or off that north parking line along the north parking lot.
Yeah, I
No,
think
the
we would
intention.
have to continue the access easement, Craig. Absolutely right.
Okay.
Okay.
So I saw that and I saw that. So that's just maybe something we can take a look at in the review. Then it looked like that parking lot on the gas station on the south side encroaches
Yeah, there's an existing easement for landscaping there.
through the pavement.
Not through the pavement, no.
This section, what I'm pointing to, if you can see my pointer, is
Yes.
existing pavement of the parking lot on the gas station that appears to be on your property.
Yes,
If
yeah, it
that's gonna
does.
Stay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe that would stay. Yep. We're not proposing to change anything there.
I know we've been talking to the supervisor, it was, communicating quite a bit that this would remove, any parking from what used to be a Circuit City, that's now just a storage unit, and that seemed to be okay with everybody under my understanding, so. And it is a good reuse of an existing empty parking lot, so. I like the fact that, they're cramming this in there to a small degree.
And fixing that parking lot.
And fixing the parking lot.
Yeah.
And that's, again, just my interest in getting that cross access so that
Yeah.
there's never anybody down the road that can terminate that from. Okay, so that's all the comments I have in my list. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. The
Thank you.
chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You mentioned you have received and addressed all of the questions that came forward.
We haven't yet gone through and actually addressed our plans, but updated our plans to address all the comments.
Address the question.
But we have gone through all the questions, we've read them and all the comments, and we have no issues addressing any of them.
Landscaping specifically.
So yeah, so I did see the comment about the landscape buffer. And I'm open to feedback from you all on kind of what you'd like that to look like. Did you see that comment in there about adding the landscape buffer or
Landscape buffer, I'm
along Highland Drive?
I think that was Mr. Martin.
If that's what you're referring to or no?
Number 2, landscaping 2.
I have them all right here, but they're all over the place, so forgive me. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so we've proposed a landscape plan and several trees and a nice landscape buffer on the southern side of the edge that joins the gas station to sort of separate those uses visually. So any comments that you all have, we're open to them, but
Very good,
Yeah.
thank you. And you saw the conservation board recommended 8 trees per acre. Applicant shall plant quantity of trees as directed by the conservation board. It was commenting that what was proposed isn't what is required.
So it was commenting that there should possibly be an additional landscape buffer along Highland Drive.
Okay, that'll take care of that.
Yes, which we haven't added any yet. It's alluding to you all kind of discussing and basically making recommendation for whether or not that should be added.
Very good, thank you.
Mhm.
And that is all I had. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. The chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Well, for what it's worth, that was my only note that I wanted to address was that buffer on Highland specifically.
Okay,
It looks really nice what you're doing on the south,
yeah,
but you're leaving it wide open, I think, on Highland. So
okay,
my opinion is we need to do something there. And usually this is Patty's forte. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I think we definitely ought to put something there. This is a cool plan because we're all commenting on how it's kind of a bad area. So anything you're gonna do is gonna be an improvement.
right.
But if we're going that far, let's just notch it up one and get
Okay.
something on Highland Drive and
Okay.
finish it up.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, we can come up with
That's all I
something.
have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski.
Can I comment on that?
Yes, Mr. Eckert.
Would it be even possible then to take the landscaping that's kind of existing or proposed on the south side and move it to the west side? I mean, the west side,
in addition to.
or in addition to, the south side doesn't really do anything besides back up to the gas station.
Yeah, but it looks nice based on what they've got here as the plan.
Mhm.
Sorry.
But even if they minimize that a little bit, and then accentuate the Highland Drive might be a little bit.
If you have to compromise on cost to do that, that's great, but I would like to have that on Highland in addition to what you've already proposed.
Understood.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, man. Thanks.
All set, Mr. Borkowski?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, the chair will recognize Mr. Barley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Emma, can you point out on the drawings where the fire truck would have access?
Yes, I actually have an exhibit that I can pass around to you all, because I don't have it large.
Okay,
But I could point if you'd like. So the fire truck would be able to access. Come right up against the building on the west side.
Mhm.
And then we've calculated and done the turning movements for the fire truck. And the fire truck would then have to back up north. And then continue back north and east, and then go north. Does that make sense? I could pass around the exhibit if you all
That
want
would
to
be
look at that. Okay, I'm sorry.
it's the only question I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Barley. Chair will recognize Mr. List.
Thank you, Mr.
You're
Chairman.
welcome.
I'll echo the other comments about the buffer on Highland Drive side. And as well, what kind of hours of operation will this soil change place?
Yes,
be?
I have that. Let me pass this and then I'll address
Sure,
your
yeah.
comment.
Do what you gotta do.
You want this back? Okay, okay, next.
Like this and get out, they're gonna back up. Like that.
Mhm. I mean, is it 7 days a week? 8 to 5, 8 to 9?
I have a quick little letter here that outlines all of it. I just need to find it.
Look at that.
All right, it is Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Sundays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So yes, 7 days a week.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, that's really all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. List.
Thank you.
Chair will recognize Mrs. Reynolds.
Hi. Thank
Hi.
you. Just one quick question. The traffic pattern again, you said they'll, customers will be coming in from the east side and then directed to exit north
Yes,
past the building that's next to them?
yes,
correct?
you-
This building? Yes.
yes, yep.
Okay, I just want to clarify. Thank you.
Yep.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Reynolds. Emma, do you know about how many employees will be there every day?
I believe the code requires that we have 5 parking spaces, so I'm assuming somewhere in the ballpark of 5.
Yep,
I'm not sure if anybody from Quattro that's on virtually would have an specific answer to that.
I can answer that. Brett Dahlman from Quattro Developments. Typically, depending on the day of the week, they're anywhere from 3 to 5 on a shift.
Okay. And it's
3 to
just,
5.
just oil changes, right? You're doing tire rotations and, probably fluid refills, but, no tires or anything like that?
Correct, yeah, it's oil change and windshield wipers, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. Great. Did you get his name? Mrs.
Jason, right?
That was Brett, I believe.
Brett, and where is he from?
Quattro Development LLC.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. So just an idea or a thought on the buffer that we've talked about. If you guys get a chance to maybe scoot around the corner a little bit, go over to Market Square and look, not so much now, but well, you're going to get started soon, but they've done a very nice job at the entrance to Market Square Plaza over there on Jefferson Road with their they've got some wonderful gardens out there and things like that. And it wouldn't have to be that extensive, but when springtime comes, if you're still haven't built yet, might be nice to go over there and just take a look at that because it's a very welcoming field to pull into that plaza over there. And it's really not far from you.
Yeah,
So-
I actually know exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
okay.
Yeah, and I have clients that actually ask me, can you make that for my property? Yeah, because they love that entrance. It's
Market
so
Square.
so visually pleasing.
It
But-
is, yeah.
But yeah, yep.
So very good. And Highland's a busy road, just like Jefferson. So certainly would be impactful there. Okay, anything from town staff, Mr. Mastrella?
Nothing.
No, Mr. Martin?
Just seeker, Mr. Chairman.
Speaker, thank you. I'm like Mrs. Brill, I gotta find it.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask an additional question since?
Certainly, Mr. Eckert, yep.
The turning truck movement, the template that was used, was that given by the fire marshal?
I believe so. We used it for a couple of other projects that we've been in for recently, like Starbucks and Shake Shack, I believe, a few meetings ago.
Usually the template sits on the plan as well, so that's why I was asking, just to confirm that this was done with what the fire marshal requests.
I will confirm.
Okay, then is there a reason why they can't access it from Marketplace Drive?
I believe, I think that was the most efficient way because they go straighter for longer and pull right up next to the building rather than having to circle around and make the turn. But
Yeah,
I can
interrupt for a minute,
verify.
Craig? I think knowing the fire marshal, I think he'd want to see it from both ways.
Both ways.
Yeah, just in case there's an emergency.
Okay.
Who knows which way it's coming, the truck's coming in, so
Yeah.
Well, I
just to
guess
play it
that-
safe.
I mean, just Steve, to the fire marshal's point, there isn't really a dedicated access to this, so, right, when nobody would have known which way the fire truck would
Mhm.
actually
Mhm.
access the property, from.
Right.
As long as they could, can't imagine they can't get in from Marketplace Drive, but still exit north. I don't know, they could still then turn in front of the building if they needed to, or still
Right.
be on the north side. If
Right.
if that was acceptable. Okay,
Yeah, per that movement, they could still, you can see that they back out and go up north and to the east. Conceivably, they would be able to come west and turn as well. If they can make one movement, they can make the other.
okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
that's the extent of my question.
Yep, thank you. And then Emma, I'm sorry. So to go back to the fire marshal, he's got a comment here that this project is going to go into Appendix D of the fire code, I guess. So that means that the road access or the width access has to be 26, the entire length, and not 24. So you saw that comment?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Yep. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, we will make that change.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, well, seeker review indicates the action under consideration is an unlisted action as per section 617.7 C1 VIII. The Henrietta Planning Board, as lead agency, has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a site plan application by Quattro Development LLC. It is an unlisted action and will not require a conditioned negative declaration. The purpose of this application for final site plan approval of a new 1,600 square foot vehicle service facility located at what will be known as 1300 Highland Drive in a planned commercial development district. All relevant areas of environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus the proposed site improvements. It has been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. I, James Gruner, therefore make the motion that we make a negative declaration and that the chairman be authorized to sign the statement of environmental significance. Do I have a second, please?
Like,
Mrs. Brill? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. We have seeker. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to move ahead with application number 23001, take 5 oil change.
Thank you, Mr. Liss. Do I have a sufficient second, please?
Second.
Mr. Barley, thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to Henrietta.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, next item on this evening's agenda, application number 23-002, Verizon Wireless co-location at 289 Williams Road. This is for final site plan approval for the installation of Verizon Wireless antennas on the existing tower located at 289 Williams Road in a rural residential zoned district. I ask who's here representing the applicant, please?
Hi, my name is Ursulia Davis, and I'm an agent for Verizon Wireless.
Can you spell your name for us, please?
Yes, it's ERSILIA, and the last name is Davis.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ursulia. Okay, the floor is yours.
Okay. Verizon would like to add equipment to an existing 150-foot monopole. There are already 2 carriers on that monopole. The pole is owned by Crown Castle. They would like to add 9 antennas, 6 remote radio units, 1 overvoltage protector, 2 hybrid cable, a platform mount, and 3 dual antenna mounts to the pole. They will be co-locating at the 138-foot RAD center. And they will also be adding ground equipment to the site. This is like I said, an existing telecommunication facility with 2 carriers already on the pole.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Chair will recognize Mr. Liss.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Chair will recognize Mr. Barley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Has all statutory requirements been met for this particular cell tower? I mean, safety wise, there's a lot of stuff they're putting up there. Do you have any idea, Mr. Martin?
Oh, you mean as far as the engineering report, a structural analysis?
Yeah.
Yes, they did perform a structural analysis, and if I remember correctly on this tower, I think everything was fine. Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry, I take that back. There are some tower modifications that are going to be required. So
Okay.
they would have to make those modifications prior to putting the equipment up.
Okay. All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Barley. Chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this seems pretty easy. It's a pre-existing location. It's pretty much in the middle of farmland. So I don't have any concerns with neighbors right now anyway. So I think I'm good with this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. I have nothing.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Brill. Chair will recognize Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, my only question again was the same as Mr. Barley, that I just didn't see a passing structural analysis report. Ursula, can you comment on that? Do you have Can you maybe point me and then on the report where it has a passing?
I could send you a copy of their structural analysis.
But, yeah,
And we have one
just
as
in
well,
the
Craig.
application here.
Oh, okay.
I just don't see that it was given. Usually you see it approved. I'm not used to seeing one from this company, I guess. Is why I was thinking I was losing it. But usually it's pretty predominantly listed as a pass in that open statement, first page or two.
Yeah, I think there's something in the, if I remember correctly, in like the recommendations or conclusions that state that there's certain improvements that have to be made.
Yeah, the structural analysis actually says that it has sufficient capacity. And this is a structural analysis from November 7th.
Scroll back up to the top.
Through an appendix D.
Could be, I'm back, I'm trying to get back. Okay, so I'm looking at the report from Paul Ford from November. The structural modification report.
Yeah, like I said, there's a, if I remember correctly, there's an appendix D in the back of the report. And I believe that has the, what the modifications are.
I believe they've been added to the construction drawings.
I think it's here.
Well, I guess my comment, I mean, it's kind of mute, but I see appendix D, I see the modifications, I just still don't see, I guess, what I would consider a stamp or an authorization saying once the modifications are done, the site meets, the tower meets standards, so. Yeah, I mean, is that right here? No, okay. I'll
Yeah,
set
I
Mr.
mean,
Chairman,
certainly
thank
the
you.
building inspector is not going to issue a permit until he's satisfied.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Chair will recognize Mrs. Reynolds.
I have no additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think Mr. Mastrella, Mr. Martin,
And again, Mr. Chairman, seeker.
Seeker. Okay, seeker review indicates the action under consideration is a type 2 action as per section 617.5 C7. The Henrietta Planning Board, as lead agency, has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a site plan application by Crown Castle. It is a type 2 action and will not require a conditioned negative declaration. The purpose of this application is for final site plan approval for the installation of Verizon wireless antennas on the existing tower located at 289 Williams Road in a rural residential zone district. Tax account number, I'm sorry, I don't need that. All relevant areas of environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus the proposed site improvements. It's been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. Let me see, this says Williams Road, but this is on Castle Road, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think there must be a typo in there. I
Okay.
believe the one on 289 Williams Road should be unlisted. But the one on
Castle.
Castle Road is a type 2.
Okay, so let's see, we've got This is Williams Road. Okay. Why did I think it was probably Crown? Why was I thinking Castle? Okay, it's my bad. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, that could be.
Yeah, they're both Verizon.
All right, so I apologize, everybody. So all relevant areas of environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus the proposed site improvements. It's been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. I, James Gruner, therefore make the motion that we make a negative declaration and that the chairman be authorized to sign a statement of environmental significance. Do I have a sufficient second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, we have a seeker. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Mrs. Brill, thank you. Do I have sufficient second, please?
Second.
Mr. Liss? Thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Marcelia. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda this evening, application number 23-003. Now we're on Castle Road.
Good evening, members of the board. Jared Luss with Nixon Peabody, representing Verizon Wireless. With me is a brand new lawyer named Jeff Twitty. He's not yet admitted, so I just want to say I'm the lawyer of record, but Jeff's going to make the presentation. I needed to be here. Mr. Mistrella doesn't beat him up too bad. I remember when I first got admitted in 1999, Dan was probably in one of the first courts that I was in. So he was a grizzled little veteran then. Now look at 25 years later, look where we are. So good to see you, Mr. Mistrella. I told Jeff to be prepared for the hot questions from the planning board attorney this evening. So my friend Jeff Twitty, thank you.
Let me just go here. It's so this is Verizon Wireless Castle Road Micro Project, and this is for final site plan approval of a microcell wireless telecommunications facility on a replacement RG&E pole located within the right of way across from 425 Castle Road, rear of the parcel 1565 Jefferson Road in a R115 zone district. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And as Jared said, my name is Jeff Twitty. I'm with Nixon Peabody and I'm here on behalf of Verizon Wireless. So just to give a quick overview of what we're proposing here, I'll break my presentation down into three parts. First, the why and how behind what we're doing, and then I'll break for a few questions if you all have any, and then talk about exactly what we're proposing to do at the site. So to start off with the why, this site on Castle Road is currently being serviced by two facilities, the Pinnacle facility and the Town Line Road facility. Currently, these are both at or over capacity, both of these facilities. And this leads to slower network speeds, utilization issues, and these are really set forth in your Exhibit E on pages 6 through 11. You'll see a set of charts that kind of look like EKGs, and there's a perforated line toward the bottom, and that represents 100% utilization. And, you know, in just about all of those graphs, you'll see that we're well above 100%. So as to how, you know, this problem is fixed and you know, how do we get some relief in really better service in this area? Verizon looks in areas that really struggle with cell service, and they identify utility poles that they can co-locate upon. And, you know, they look for poles that don't have issues such as, you know, having a transformer. You know, you can't co-locate on those types of poles, and, you know, certain other types of poles that can be co-located upon. And, you know, they find the best option and they pick it. And that helps to improve capacity by co-locating an antenna. I apologize, I'm a little nervous here. But you will see the really before and after of what it looks like when we are able to co-locate on utility poles, you know, place new antennas. Again, in your Exhibit E, beginning on page 14, you'll see before and after shots of what coverage will look like when this new antenna will be installed. So I'll break here if you all have any questions up to this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Chair will recognize Mr. Liss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Now, will this, I noticed there's good proximity to the neighbors across the street on this pole. There's does that particular device that you're putting on there, is it gonna emit any kind of additional noise? Does any kind of buzzing during the day or in the evening, something like that?
No, it should not. It's really just a standalone antenna.
It's just a single antenna,
Correct.
and you're raising the height from 34.5 feet to about 45 feet, so another 10 feet high.
So I believe
This pole will be.
I believe that the pole itself is 35.5 feet.
Current, yeah, it says here current, the existing pole height 34.75 high. And the new one will be 45 feet.
All right.
Not, just a small point.
Actually, it's a 45 foot pole, only 38 feet of it will be above ground
Okay,
level.
yeah, you gotta go down. So,
Yes.
okay, that's all right. No, I'm fine. I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman. That's all I need to know.
Thank you, Mr. List. Chair will recognize Mr. Barley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Again, I would just ask about, has a clearance been made for safety on this? Who owns this pole? Does Emigrant own this?
Correct.
RG&E?
Yep, our Genie's
Okay.
parent company.
And how much equipment are you putting on there?
It is just a can antenna.
Okay,
So just that one piece of equipment,
all right,
not the size of a 5-gallon pail
gotcha.
In the cabinet.
in the cabinet.
Okay, I have no other questions.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman.
Barley. Chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you. My concerns are always with the neighbors on these things. It seems like where they're putting this, there's actually some pretty good screening with the trees across. Is that correct? Like I'm not sure exact location. Let me go back to the plan here. Hold on.
I don't think to the residents, maybe to the building.
Across the street from the home.
You're right, I mean,
Yeah.
science work that requires that permission to screen and landscaping skills. But yeah, there's a lot of houses around here.
Yeah, when I'm looking at the satellite, based on where your drawing has this location, which is the star on that one piece, right? Okay. It just so happens that is right across from probably the biggest trees I've seen on that road. So I guess that's something. I just want to make sure it's as screened as it can be, but it looks like those trees kind of take care of it. So I'm all good, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman, thank
Borkowski. Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. I have nothing.
Thank you. Chair will recognize Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Comments, I guess, and Mr. Estrella can stop me where I err. This is going on an existing utility pole. Is it in a town right of way or is it in an easement?
So it's within a right of way and it will actually, so it's an existing utility pole now,
Right.
and we're proposing to replace it and co-locate on that new pole or replacement pole.
So being that it's going into the town right of way, does it need approval by the highway superintendent?
I think the fact that it's replacement, that it probably does not.
Okay.
Be like a blanket type of an agreement that we have with utility companies.
Well, and that's, I guess, my point to that. We have an agreement to run transmission of electric on those utility poles, not antennas, but.
So they'll be transferring. So basically what they'll do is they'll replace the existing pole with obviously a taller pole, but they'll take all the lines and everything else and transfer it from the one pole to the other.
That, I understand that.
All right. Well, you had that confused look on your face, Craig. So I just wanted to,
Damn.
Touche.
I won't go on record into why my face was confused.
But-
The addition of the antenna is not in the agreement with RG&E for service or transmission.
well, it'll be an agreement that the Verizon has with our Genie.
I understand, but that's why I'm asking for highway superintendent's authorization, because that's what's in the town right away. I think I'm overstepping against, so.
Well, I think the Federal Telecommunications Act probably overrides anything that the highway superintendent could object to on this. So I don't think it's an issue.
Very good, then that's my only comment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Chair will recognize Mrs. Reynolds.
I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Estrella, Mr. Martin, anything before seeker?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you. Seeker review indicates the action under consideration is a type 2 action as per section 617.5 C7. The Henrietta Planning Board, as lead agency, has determined that the proposed action described below will not have significant effects on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a site plan application by Bell Atlantic Mobile Systems LLC. It is a type 2 action and will not require a conditioned negative declaration. The purpose of this application is for final site plan approval of a microcell wireless telecommunications facility on a replacement RG&E pole located within the right-of-way across from 425 Castle Road in an R115 zoned district. All relevant areas of environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus the proposed site improvements. It has been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. So I, James Gruner, therefore make the motion that we make a negative declaration and that the chairman be authorized to sign the statement of environmental significance. Do I have a second, please?
Second?
Mr. Barley?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. So the ayes have it. We have a seeker. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve application 23-003.
Thank you, Mr. Barley. Do I have a sufficient second, please?
Second.
Mr. Record, I think you got to the line first. Thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, Jeff, I have one question. There's no lighting on this at all. There's no requirements by FFA to have any lights on this particular pole, right?
FAA, no.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you, guys. Okay, next on our agenda this evening is a discussion item. We're going to discuss the historic sites districts. To hear any comments from the planning board regarding the two proposed historic preservation districts for the town. Gary, welcome back. Thanks, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm just here basically as a follow-up to the December 20th planning board meeting.
Can you pull the mic a little bit closer, Gary? Thank you.
Of course. That better?
Yes.
Or I can step closer. Concerning the proposed town code for historic districts within the town of Henrietta. So I'm just here as a follow-up to see if there's any further questions or comments from the board before we can move forward.
Yeah, I think, from my perspective, I thought you did a very comprehensive job the first time. I didn't really have any other comments. Now, what's the process going to be, Gary? Are you going to take those to the homeowners or the property owners in that district and get their input? Or
Well, what will happen is anything to do with the historic site committee, we do recommendations to the town board. Yes, there is letters created that will go out to presently designated properties within the proposed district and eligible properties within the proposed district. The lettering or the wording is slightly different on the two, obviously. And also, Supervisor Schultz said that as long as there was no issues from you, then we would put the proposal forth for a public hearing concerning this. All of these things have to go to public hearing. So it goes out to the newspaper and the web, and you know how all that works. And then we let the public respond, and the letters will go out to the homeowners within the designated area. Once I know when the potential public hearing will be, so I can add that to the letters. And people will have the chance to come and respond to this zoning issue. And then depending on what happens with the town codes for the zoning, then the next step is actually a public hearing for the district itself.
Right.
But we have to get through the code part first.
Understood. Thank you. All right. Well, Chair's going to take a moment and acknowledge the attendance of Councilwoman Safranek. Thank you very much. And I'll open it up to the board now. And Mr. Eckert, I will start with you if you have any questions or comments for Gary.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Gary. So,
Hey.
yes, was trying to wrap my head around all this too, and I guess my only other concern, I mean, as a planning board, we'll deal with this more of the new development, which I really don't see too much of a conflict. Even the proposed developments that are earmarked for that corner are really trying to also preserve or accentuate that historic district.
Correct. That's my understanding from my involvement with those. Yes.
Right, so I guess my only other concern, which I'm not sure again falls under our purview, but would there be hardships to existing residences that are already there, the houses that want to reside or do something and fix up their houses, would they be held to a different standard?
The way the town code is presently written, homeowners have to voluntarily ask to be part. Unless that changes, then that's what it is. A homeowner can say, yes, I'd like to be part of it, or no, I don't want to be. There are properties within the district that are not eligible. I mean, there's a gas station in there and there's a couple other things that will not be eligible, newer houses. In the particular case of the boundaries, which I presented to you guys on December 20th, there's very little open space with which to build. People could make additions to their property. The way the code is written, we are requesting that they keep them compatible with the historic district. The couple.
That's just a request, they don't have to comply.
Well, we make the recommendation to the town board. The town board is the one that makes the final decision on any of this. So
Yeah,
I
for
can't.
new construction, but I mean, for an existing residence. that
No,
has
even an existing resident, if it's a designated historic site,
Right,
we have to go through our steps and then we recommend to the town board, we like this idea, we've discussed it with the owner, whatever the case may be. And then the town board has a public meeting about that and then they do a vote.
but if they don't, even if they're in the district, they don't have to be listed as a historic site, and therefore they're not.
That's
under the
correct at the
regulations.
moment. At the moment, the way the code is written, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So until that changes, I can't really answer that. If it changes in the future, then,
No, I understand that. I just want to make sure that those that don't want to be included aren't being held to some criteria or.
Right.
That, as a blanket for the whole district. I think it would be great and it would look great. I just find it hard to put, a higher level of decoration or facade treatments to houses that may not want to be listed
Right.
as historic sites,
And-
whether they can or can't be.
When I created the code that I presented to you, I based it on our present town codes for this. With just a few additions that had to do with historical properties, which I researched from SHPO, from the national systems and, keeping it architecturally compatible with the district is one of the additions. Most people who live in that district now probably wouldn't have a problem with that, but there again, that's not up to me.
What would potential like setback, so for, what if it was reconstruction? So just say again for Cartwrights or that corner, one of the buildings, continue to stay, historic district would have an increase in buffer, right?
It's my understanding that that's what the town supervisor has proposed, and I know that Chris helped create that map. Yes, historic designated historic sites within Henrietta have already had an extended boundary added to them by town code last year. There were some resolutions done. For the entire property boundary, there would be a slight extension. So that would actually, in most cases, help protect a homeowner, I would believe, from encroachment from another side of their property.
Right. What if that was a redevelopment?
No, I understand what you're saying. If they want to put an addition off the back of their house or,
No, I'm sorry. I'm back into the commercial side.
oh, okay,
So, say there's a developer that does come in and wants to put up a brand new building in this historic site. It's still going to make it historically accurate, but would a buffer still exist to an existing building that would inhibit, some growth in that area? I don't want to put too many restrictions on what would be a nice new addition, historically pleasing
right.
to an existing historic facility.
Nor do we. I
Yeah,
mean,
okay.
especially if it's existing, we like refurbishing and reusing as much as possible. I mean, Cartwrights would be a prime example.
Would we, Chris, or Mr. Chairman, would we have, I know that sometimes buffers, reduction in buffers
Mhm.
come to this board, would
Yeah.
that also come here if there was, would there be an application to reduce that buffer?
Well, any current property owner, it's my understanding, can always put forth to whichever particular board, be it variance, zoning, whatever you apply to have certain things like that created.
Yeah, so you're talking, I think, our transitional buffers.
Yeah, maybe that's the right.
Yeah,
Right.
so we have transitional buffers for a lot of things, and one of them is next to historic homes or districts, I guess. And so this board does have the right to reduce those historic buffers to whatever the setbacks are at the time. Like, for example, if it's like a commercial, it would be maybe 5 feet side setback, but it or it might be a 30-foot rear or 60-foot rear. So our board can do that. But if it's more than that, say they want to go 2 feet, then that's where the zoning board of appeals would step in with, of course, input from the historic site committee.
So would a request to reduce the transitional buffer also be both before the historic site committee prior to the planning board or in tandem?
Well, that's a great question. I want to say this board would probably maybe seek input from the committee,
I would, I mean, I
Right.
but I don't know if it's an actual requirement. I'll be honest.
Is there a way to add that to the process without maybe making a requirement or a
Well,
request?
if the new zoning code goes into effect, or the new code for historic districts, presently, any currently designated property that applies for a building permit, be it commercial, because we do have some commercial historic properties, or residential, the building department, they just did it today. They contacted me and said, this property has applied for this permit. The permit is held up until we have a chance to look at it, speak with the owner, look at the plans, and then make our recommendation to the board. And then the board has the final say-so on that. Now, whether that happens in conjunction with you or before you, I can't really say. Presently, the process is building goes to building permit, comes to us, we make our recommendation goes to the board, and then the board says yay or nay on the building permit.
Which is similar with town board applications as well, right?
Right.
But we don't, I think, have that process right now for planning. Because
Not that I'm aware of, but I wasn't really aware of your entire process until all this began anyway, so I'm learning as we go. I'm sure you are also.
yeah, and I think that for me, I would enjoy some other feedback so that I honestly don't want to make a bad decision.
Oh, right.
So, and if those requests are now going to come to us to reduce transitional buffers in this area, and we may not have an understanding of a clear understanding of what your oversight to this whole area might be, I don't want to be in conflict with that. Does that make sense?
And that was why it would make sense for us to come to you like I am now, or you to say, this property has applied for this. What are your thoughts thereof? And then we could make a recommendation based on that.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a way we can change the process going forward to make sure that a request is sent similar to the way the building department is, or if that's, I don't know if that's, we can talk about that if you feel comfortable later, but
Sure.
I just want to understand the nuances and how we're changing what we're now going to be looking at this separate.
Yeah,
Right, well,
keep in mind though, we really don't see too many residential applications through the
Yeah, I
planning board.
would
It
only
would be
be-
more commercial, industrial type things.
Yeah, I would be just interested in the commercials, but that's where we do get requested for that reduction in transitional buffer, usually, right?
Yeah, that's where we would see it through that
Yeah.
process, the site plan process.
And obviously, the one corner where Delphi used to be, that open property sits right smack dab in the middle of the district.
Correct.
And the new boundaries that the supervisor has proposed did push slightly into that. The present historic properties on that corner, which there's enough of them, that their boundaries are already in place.
Right.
And the new ones go back just, I think, another 100 feet. I can't remember exactly, so don't quote me on that. But
Well, and that kind of goes to my 2 cents on that. I mean, what I see that West Henrietta Hamlet is really more of, I don't want to call it, I guess, a city dwelling would be out of context with that, but the buildings are multi-use. I mean, you've got businesses down below or in residents or other offices up top.
right,
2 stories close together, not a whole lot of side setbacks, a little bit more of what I would call city-esque. Is that, if that's a proper term to use, but they're squished in. And if we're gonna allow that going forward to be in that same kind of facade treatment, then that's gonna be in conflict with what would be a trend. If we're gonna want to see something.
it
that's-
could be. I mean, we'd have to see the actual project to know that for sure.
But that's,
Um,
I guess, what I would be okay with over there, and that's why I guess I would like to see some other communication, and if anybody else is in agreement.
I was told, and I don't know the actual developer, but I was told that the developer who was thinking about the old Delphi property is already made aware of the whole district idea and has agreed to make whatever the outside facade of that particular building compatible, to
That's
make it
correct.
historically compatible, which is all we can ask for.
Right, and I'll be clear, we've seen concepts for other corners of that area already,
Mhm.
so,
As have I.
okay, good.
But until they become official, there's nothing really, I mean, we can't
No.
comment on something that somebody just said, hey, I might like to do this.
No, but I think that's where I want to put into context, if something similar like that goes forward, how I handle that, and how I review.
Right, right.
I want
And
to.
believe me, I understand that too. Our whole goal is to keep the intrinsic value of that small community. I mean, even the state came in and said, this is a great representation of an early hamlet. We called it a village for years and years and years, but an early farming hamlet that had a town created around the farms that were around it. And obviously the farms that are around it aren't farms anymore, but the buildings that are there, I mean, that Four Corners, you're talking 150 plus years that they've been there. We don't really want to see that change. Which is one of the reasons, and I know it comes up for public hearing, I believe tomorrow night. We've applied to have Chapman's Corners become a historically designated site. Because the Lutheran church and the church next to it and a few of the buildings across the street, they are all presently historically designated. So it just seemed to make sense. I mean, the brick telephone building is already designated. So it just made sense to have that corner also. Obviously, the house next to Cartwright's is historically designated, and its boundaries do impact. Its parcel is actually very impactful on where Cartwright ends, still stands. But
That was my, reason for communication, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to understand what our part was in this, and that my understanding wasn't differing from what the historic value of this corner might be.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ecker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Very quick question. Do you need a certain number of interested parties in order to create the district? Or if you have 1 or 2, would that be enough to?
we already have 16 historically designated buildings within the boundary that I showed you on that map.
Yeah.
Is that enough to create the district? Our committee believes so. The supervisor thought it was, which is why Chris and the supervisor and I sat down and created the boundaries the way they were set up by the stuff I submitted to you. It'll kind of be a town vote. It'll go to public hearing. And we will send out the letters to all the people who are within, and hopefully they'll respond or come to a public meeting.
Thank you. Mrs. Brill, any questions or comments?
No, I'm excited to see everything move forward. So excited. Yeah, it's gonna be exciting.
Thank you. Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you. Yeah, on the surface, this is a great idea. I think it's long overdue. My questions come from a sense of expense. What if any, does this cost the town? Is this something that taxes are going to go up? Is there's no cost for preservation or anything?
No. Other than getting the code modified, whatever that would take cost wise. And I mean, as a town, we do that a lot already.
Sure. But no ongoing expense for upkeep on preservation and stuff?
Not from our aspect, from a town aspect. The currently designated properties actually within Henrietta itself, the present town code has certain, which I don't like to call them restrictions, but guidelines that they have to maintain. The front facade, any side of the property facing a road, so it can be seen visually from the road, has to be maintained. And maintained as historically accurate to the time period of the building as possible.
Okay. At the expense of the owner.
But yes, just like if I wanted to put new windows in my house, it's not up to the town, even if I was in a historic district.
Yeah, but it could cost them considerably more when they have to make it look historical. So, but if they're in agreement and it's not a tax thing, I'm fine with that.
Right, although the supervisor is working on trying to get some tax breaks for historically designated. There has been some things that have happened. But.
And what about, whether it's perceived positives or negatives, if this becomes a historic district, does it adversely affect assessments in the area? So neighborhoods behind that, are they going to get hit with crazy assessments because now they're, abutting a historic district?
That would be, from my research, historic districts have a positive impact on the things that are near them, especially with bringing business, because people want to come see it now and whatnot. That would be more of a question for the assessor's office than myself. That's not really my area of expertise. So that one's hard for me to answer.
Okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Mr. Barley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, Gary.
Hey.
I think we kind of touched on what I'm going to ask the last time you were here. And my question was really about, would this designation help the residents with funding? I know you just mentioned tax breaks. It seems that we talked about something that would help commercial business in the area, but I'm wondering if you found out any information on what might help the residents to keep and upkeep their homes to be historical.
Well,
because of requirements.
Unfortunately, the state of New York, 2 years ago, yes. They changed it last year and took the credit, they call it a tax credit program, off for residential, but they kept it in place for commercial.
Okay.
So unless that changes in 2023, I mean, those things change every year. So, I mean, obviously from my aspect, we're hoping, as even the State Historical Preservation Office is hoping, that will help people that just have a residence, that they want to keep historic, get a little bit of tax break.
Man, that would be helpful.
There is grants out there for historical buildings that have nothing to do with the state.
Okay.
But whether or not that could be applied here, I can't really answer, I wish there were.
All right, that's the only question I have. Thanks a lot, Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Barley. Mr. Liss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Gary, thank you so much. You did a lot of work to do this, and you
Thank
a
you.
lot of work and a lot of thought went into this, and I really think all your proposed codes are in line with how they should be. And I hope this comes to fruition and you get positive response in a public hearing. I did have a question about, Craig, you earlier brought up the thing about, you were talking about buffers, and does that fall into the code, the town code 295? That's under incentives, bonuses for mixed for historic properties.
There are new incentive bonuses within that section of code. I don't have that. You've got it in front of you, so I don't know the numbers off the top of my head.
Says waiver, reduction, adjustment, or otherwise relief of area dimension,
Right.
including but not limited to, but for purposes setbacks, height, density.
Right.
So all that's covered.
Right.
If I make an improvement in my home, right, my historic home.
Right. It would be covered under whatever the present town code is at that point in time when you applied.
Well, no, I have nothing else. I mean, although I wish you would, a lot of this had been done before they took down the, what is now a 7-Eleven, right? On the east side. Wasn't that a very historic, wasn't that one of Henrietta's?
Oh, that
very
was in the
first
east,
homes?
that was in the East Village or in the East Hamlet. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a few there. There's actually quite a few, believe it or not, historic. There's 5 or 6 that are presently designated. But that particular strip from Lehigh Station headed south on 15. And then 3 or 4 buildings headed north across from where the Monroe Academy used to be. There's a couple that are presently designated. And then on Lehigh Station Road, 2 houses towards the school, towards the senior high school, they are both presently. And then there's 2 or 3 headed west on Lehigh Station also. And
So
now we have this, the church. Good,
So if this moves forward on the west, you're gonna come to the east, it's gonna be incorporated.
Correct.
Make the east historic district.
well, that was the plan, and that's why when I did the codes as written, it was from a historical district aspect. And then when we move to the East Village, we'll do the same. We'll create boundaries. We'll send out letters to homeowners, all the same steps we're doing now. But these codes would apply to a historic district wherever the town decides to create a historic district. At this point in time, the only plan our committee has is for one in the West Hamlet and one in the East Hamlet. But as you can see from the stuff I presented you, and you would not believe the amount of stuff I have, it takes a lot to get this together. And once we get the locally designated historic district in place, then the people, like Mr. Barkley was saying, those people can now apply to the state for national registry. The state has already said that this area is eligible, and they gave me a list of 29 buildings that they consider eligible. Homeowners have to go through themselves and fill out all the paperwork and apply, and it's the state. When Mr. Heading did his house, it took probably a year to get the paperwork done, but now that house is on the national registry. So we have one within the new proposed district. So once we get this in place, then we're going to apply to the state for basically state and national recognition for this district. So, and then therefore maybe grants will become available.
Thanks again, Gary. Appreciate
You're
your-
welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Liss. Mrs. Reynolds.
I have no questions. This is great. Thank you very much. Looking forward to moving forward. Any
Okay.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Martin, Mr. Mistrella?
All set, Mr. Chairman?
Gary, thank you very much and good job. We appreciate it. And I think this board was a little bit remiss in getting back to you, so I apologize for that. But thank you for your patience with us and wish you good luck with the rest of this project. We're
Okay.
excited to see it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Tyler.
Well, I think I just wanted us to know that we're on the. Okay, last item on our agenda is a discussion item about whether we'd like to incorporate the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of our meetings. So, pardon me? Nope, that was crossed off. Nope, thank you. Yep, that's crossed off mine. So,
I don't see why not.
Now, the zoning board does the Pledge of Allegiance as well as the town board. But I'm not sure about the conservation board.
How did this come up?
Yeah, what was the origin of this?
So I brought it up. I was actually a little embarrassed because I've been on this board for a long time. And I don't know if somebody was online or they were looking at the notes and they just noticed that it wasn't referenced. And it never even occurred to me. So I actually got kind of embarrassed that I didn't even realize we weren't doing it. So I reached out to the chairman because I think especially if the town board is doing it, the zoning board is doing it, we should certainly be doing it.
I remember when I first came on board, I was surprised that we didn't do it because we did it, at other committee meetings and things like that.
I don't think we had a flag downstairs. Oh, years and years ago, we never had a flag downstairs. So maybe that was one of the reasons. And then when we came up here, we just never did it.
So yeah, I'll pull the board. Who's in favor of Mr. Eckert?
In favor.
Mrs. Brill? Yeah, me too.
I disagree. I'm not in favor of it. I just don't think, I think we're here to discuss setbacks, buffers. We're not here to discuss, national issues. And it doesn't, given it's just my personal belief, you have the word under God in there, you have justice for all, and everybody has issues about those things. And I don't think we're here as a planning board to discuss those things. So that's why I disagree. I don't think it's a necessary thing. My viewpoint.
Mrs. Reynolds?
I'm in favor.
Okay.
Well, Dan, that's a good question. I mean, just out of curiosity, what do other planning boards do?
He said he was staying out of it.
I know he was, but I dragged him back in. I'm just curious.
I worked for a number of different boards. And I would say most do not do it, but certainly the town board does.
Yes.
I'm the village attorney in Brockport, and what they don't do the Pledge of Allegiance, but they do a moment of silence to recognize our armed forces, first responders, etc.
Town engineers.
You know what? I almost would rather see a moment of silence than do the Pledge of Allegiance, because I don't disagree with what Walt said. And if you want to do the Pledge of Allegiance because you feel strongly about that, you can do that in your moment of silence. If you want to say a prayer for something going on in the Ukraine, if you want to use that time for a personal anything, I don't know. I'm okay either way, but I think the moment of silence, not that we were like split down the middle or anything, but that might.
A simple Google search, it brought up a lot of things to me. There are a lot of towns across the country that have this issue.
Yeah, and I do understand the issue.
And even in New York State, we had that issue in Greece many years ago, the town of Greece with the prayers at the beginning. That even made it, I believe it made it to the Supreme Court, did it not? The prayer in front of the town board.
The board
Yeah,
themselves?
yeah,
pray?
the board itself. They used to do a prayer.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they'd get like different people from different churches
Correct,
in there.
now
Right,
they
right.
have- Yes,
Right.
yes, so,
hence
I
the moment
just
of
brought
silence.
up, and then it's very divergent across all these boards in the community.
Town board does a silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, and that's the thing is the precedent. It was brought up by a townsperson. And like I said, I don't remember if they were online here watching it or what it was. They looked at the notes and I was like, huh. So I actually completely understand your viewpoint, especially in today's day, because in doing it could be a divisive thing. The problem is, or not the problem, the fact is that we're a municipality doing municipal work. That's part of the county, that's part of the state, that's part of the country. So there is a very long historical precedent for doing it. Prayers, not so much,
I'm on 2 other planning boards. They don't do it on either one. So
So it's just a discussion item tonight. We're not.
It's a discussion. We'd have to decide anything. Yeah. It's certainly the intent up here is not to make anybody uncomfortable. And I do see both sides of it. The moment of silence, how does that typically work? Everybody stands up and bows your head and you just, is it 15 seconds, 30 seconds? Is it?
like 10 seconds.
I don't think they require people to stand. Just
Take a moment of silence to,
And would it make sense to mention something of significance within the town or within the state?
Stands because right after the
What do you mean? I don't think I would.
Yeah.
Let me do, I'll do some research on that, and see, we can revisit this, maybe next month or actually I'm gonna be on vacation for 2 weeks, so maybe 2 months.
And it would also be worth maybe taking it to the town board and go, why do you do it and we don't? You know, maybe. It would seem that we either all do it or we all don't.
Right.
So that's the other portion.
All right, well, we'll revisit this. We'll leave it open for now. Thank you for everybody's comments on that. And we'll come back to that. Anything else, gentlemen, ladies?
Oh, I will say at the next meeting in March, we are going to see the Shake Shack restaurant.
All right.
Nice. Shake Shack.
So those of
Samples,
you-
will they have samples?
Okay.
Howard, that's something we can all agree on.
So if those of you who don't know, they're going where the former Denny's. was.
Yeah, right.
And then I think we have another cell tower, and I believe that's it. Except for maybe a discussion item that we pulled from this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's big news.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski.
7:19.
7:19.
Is it the 21st again? Yeah. I think so, because of the way